Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Seize Your Business podcast. My name is Bryan McDonald, partner at onPurpose Growth, and the reason why we started this podcast is because we wanted to give to the marketplace best practices, strategies, skills that actual business owners or high-level professionals in the marketplace are applying to their businesses, so you can take what you want, see what works for you, and use it in your business or wherever that ultimately would apply in your life to help everybody out there move the ball forward and start achieving whatever they want to achieve and hit whatever goal they want to hit. So if you'd like to learn more about myself or onPurpose Growth, you can go to onPurposeGrowth.com, or you can hit me up on my social media sites. It's linkedin.com/McDonaldBryan and or twitter.com/McDonaldBryan. We'll be adding some of my other social media sites to this in the future. And if you want to learn more about O'Flaherty Law, who's hosting the podcast, you can go to o'flaherty-law.com. Thanks, and here's the next episode.
The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.
Hey everybody, Bryan McDonald with another Seize Your Business podcast. Today I have Dawn and Elliot Hershik of Supporting Strategies today, and what we're going to talk about is what happens when you wake up one morning and you realize you actually have a real business. What do you got to do? How do you got to think about this? And Dawn and Elliot are going to talk to us on a lot of things about the on the finance side. So guys, thanks for coming out and being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, why don't you give a little bit of background of what you guys do, and then we'll dive into this.
Oh, sure. We become the outsourced accounting department for small business.
Okay.
Small business, different people define it differently, but we go up to about 25 million in annual revenue. We find even at that size, people still have some issues that they can use professional help with.
Great. So to give people context, when we say we wake up one morning and we realize we have a business, what does that look like? What are we realizing?
Well, think about it, right? You're selling your product, you're paying your bills, maybe you have a 1 or 2 person staff, and things are now happening, right? You've opened the doors, whether it's virtual or an office or a storefront, but things are starting to happen, and now you're not thinking about, will they buy from me? You're thinking about, how can I grow this? And then that comes with a whole new set of challenges to keep going with.
So, before we came on, we were talking about a couple different buckets that people have to think about. And I think the first one was, you wake up, you realize you have a business, and now you realize, hey, a bank's important to me. So
you need money.
You need money. So how do business owners have to think about that?
Well, they do, right? The number one reason a business fails is they run out of cash.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, you heard that before?
That's amazing to me.
Well, until you start thinking about it, right? You think, oh, I'm selling, I'm doing well, I'm growing, and then you realize, oh, but I'm not sending out invoices. Contractors are notorious for that. They do great work, and they don't send an invoice, so no one pays them.
Pretty simple equation.
But they're still buying supplies. They're paying their subcontractors, paying their employees, and eventually all the cash goes away, and then you can't make your next payroll, and that's a sad story.
Yes.
There's very few businesses that have ever fully funded their own growth. So at some point you're going to want to talk to a bank so that you can get working capital to make the leap to the next level. Whether it's buying equipment or inventory or just being able to bring on additional people, you have to have the cash to fund that.
So what do you have to start thinking about when you're approaching a bank? Because I'm sure you just can't walk up into your neighborhood whatever bank and say, give me some money, right?
Well, you can try that. I haven't found anybody where it works so successfully. They're going to ask for historical items, maybe a tax return or two. They're going to want to see your current financial statements, and they may even ask for some projections on where you see the business going, and you're going to have to be able to put that together in a nice, tidy package.
In your experience, if you don't have an expert putting these things together, do they get approved, the loans?
Depends on the banker, and it depends on what you've put on there, right? Sometimes they say, oh, right, that number, that should be over here, and a nicer banker will move it into the right spot for you. Sometimes they just go, oh, you've put your student loan as a liability on the balance sheet. We're not going to do business with you. You don't have the financial savvy to actually run this business. So we're not going to take the risk.
So they're looking for indicators through the financials. Do you know what you're doing or not?
Yes.
Right?
Can you run the business, and do you know where the business is? What's really going on with it, right? That's what the financial reports tell you. They record the transactions of the business so that you can say, oh, here's where we are. This is why I have $5,000 in the bank account.
So if you can't produce a report like that and articulate what it means, don't go to a bank.
It's going to be much tougher.
There you go. That's interesting, right? Because I'm sure people just think it's easy just to walk into a bank and get it done. And I haven't met many nice bankers. Well, that want to lend me money, right? There's a lot of nice bankers, but attitude changed when I asked them for money. So, so some of the other things we were talking about were, someone turning over. You wake up one day, you have a business, and you turn over non-income producing activities over to other people, so you can do income producing activities. Why would that be on the financial side, important, or what in general? Why is that important to a business?
Well, I think in general, at some point you start realizing, okay, it's growing, and I can't do it all. So now you get into delegation and management of an important resource, your time. It's limited, right? You're going to sleep. If you have a family, I assume you want to see them at some point.
Assume.
Different people have different thresholds for what's acceptable.
Exactly.
But it's still, where am I going to spend my time? Do I really need to be the person writing out the check for a bill I've already authorized? Or is there a way that I can just approve it and have someone else do that work?
So it's getting yourself to a point where you can't do everything and realizing what you should be able to delegate and what not to.
Right.
But I mean, can you just delegate these tasks to anybody in the business?
Well, a lot of people have tried with varying degrees of success, right? Some people foist it onto a secretary or an office manager because they go, I don't know what I'm doing, you figure it out.
That's what I pay you for, right?
Well, it is now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because I just gave you this task.
They're there. Need something else to do, so.
Yeah, I'm paying you for 40 hours. I think you're only working 35, so we'll fill up the rest of your week with this.
But what impacts can happen just in general if somebody's doing that?
Well, you're getting somebody to do the work now, may not be interested in doing that work.
That's a good point.
Could be interested, but not so good at it. Some parts of it are fairly easy, right? The Comcast bill, that's pretty much the same amount each month.
Yeah.
Not a difficult one. But if you were successful at the bank and now you have a loan we've actually seen it where people don't understand that the loan payment has two components.
Okay.
It has the principal repayment and the interest expense. And you need to use both accounts when you're recording that transaction, rather than just going all to repay the loan or all to interest expense. It creates other problems further down the road.
And are there, in general, other categories where you have this complication in them? You know, classifying, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong, like expenses and what expenses are and what kind of an expense something is?
Oh, happens all the time. The new tax laws, which you should contact a tax professional, but in general, some of the deductions changed. The way you can deduct. So, especially around meals and entertainment. So, you want to make sure that something that's not a meal or entertainment, but it's part of the expense of we had this putting on an event.
Okay.
Well, the food and drink there is a cost of the event. It's not so much taking someone out to lunch in the sales process. So that has an effect of showing how things really happened in the business, what the results are, and then it also affects your tax bill further down the road.
Yeah, so knowing we're not tax professionals, we just understand how that world works. That could affect your the taxes on the business and possibly somebody's personal income if you're not classifying these things the right way.
Absolutely.
And now it could go positive or negative. We just don't know, right? So that's interesting. So even though you're out there trying to do things on your own, people don't realize the impact they're making. Because, I mean, how many people read the tax code? Right?
Very few.
Yeah, very few.
That's why there's a whole industry around interpreting the tax code.
Exactly. So that's interesting. So it sounds like there's a good asset in outsourcing some of these tasks to a professional to be more efficient, as well as so people can actually just go and do income producing activities. How else can somebody start thinking about their business as an asset? Because once you grow up and you realize you have a business, now this is usually the intention is to sell it. How do they have to start thinking now in regards to that?
Well, someone a while ago said, begin with the end in mind.
Okay.
So you have an exit strategy that you figure out early on, maybe not when you're developing your product, but once you go, okay, this is really something to sell it, what do I have to do? Well, people are going to come in and they're going to crawl all through your books to make sure that whatever you say the business is doing can be proven with your good record keeping. And you say, oh, look, we sold 6 things this month, and here's the 6 invoices, and here's the 6 payments, and it all ties out nice, as opposed to, oh yeah, we did that, and I put half the cash in my pocket.
It's not it's an okay place for it. It's not. It's just not the best way to manage it, per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, because they're going to rely on what you say as being provable truth, and past performance is going to be what they're going to base future performance on. But if you were able to really do what you said, they're going to assume, well, we can at least do that going forward if nothing much has changed in the marketplace.
So it sounds like this is very similar to a bank, meaning if you're thinking about selling your business or eventually selling your business, like, hey, I got a real business, I'm eventually going to sell it, being able to quickly produce reports and be able to articulate what those reports mean and what that looks like in the future determines how much you can most likely sell your business for.
Absolutely right. Producing the reports in a modern accounting system is basically a couple mouse clicks.
Okay.
The real work goes into making sure everything's been recorded properly, leading up to those reports. That's where all the work is.
Because that will then, from what you're describing, that determines how much you can or cannot make for selling that business based on how they were recorded.
Oh yeah, right.
Or even if they figure out your books are bad, we know that this business isn't valued as much as it would be because you don't know what you're doing on the books.
Right, absolutely, right. We've all heard Mr. Wonderful argue the valuation of a business on Shark Tank.
Yeah, right.
You know, and someone comes in, oh, it's worth $20 million because I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
He says, okay, how much have you sold so far? Or he goes, and how much of that went to the bottom line? So your business is really worth this. And then he ends it up with, you're dead to me, get out.
That's a horrible way to end a relationship.
It is. Apparently it works for him.
Yeah, exactly, right?
But
well, cool. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Is very enlightening to have you guys share this info and help all the listeners and the people watching. And if you guys want to get hold of them, all their information will be shared here on the video and on the website. Please reach out to them. These guys are experts in what they do, and they'd love to help you guys. And till the next time, we'll see you on the next Seize Your Business podcast. Take care. Cool. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this last episode of the Seize Your Business podcast. Again, I'm Bryan McDonald from onPurpose Growth. We're grateful that you took the time to listen or watch this episode of the podcast. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, want to talk about how you liked it or you disliked it or completely disagreed with it, comment below wherever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast. We welcome all and any feedback, and if you would like to engage with me directly, you can or follow me on my social media sites. My LinkedIn is linkedin.com/McDonaldBryan. My Twitter is twitter.com/McDonaldBryan. And also, if you want to learn more about O'Flaherty Law, who hosts this podcast, you can find them at o'flaherty-law.com. Again, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the next episode. Take care.